found your cat and stabbed it. For I am the ambassador of this wheelbarrow, and you are the janitor of a dandelion. Indeed, you are a teacher of great chickens, for you're from the town of Fat Blastorama, oh, Tawdry Realtor. For I have clapped your dillywong in a sizable door. American poet editors Dean Young and Mary Ruefle label some forms of poetry as rebellious and sincerely irreverent. Poems like the previous one by Gabriel Gooding, A Defense to Poetry, is a pseudo-Edwardian rant against limiting the definition of poetry. Author James Loggenbaugh writes in his recent book, The Resistance to Poetry, that poetry may be an act of liberation. Therefore, it is now clear that poetry has its place in social discourse, whether on the nature of poetry itself or on serious political issues. Author Kristen O'Keefe Aptowicz defends her verse against an unnamed critic who claims that funny poetry is not significant. She goes on to plead the case for the credibility of irreverent poetry in To the Guy Who Said Funny Poetry Ain't Poetry, and a series of poems entitled Knock Knock Poems, a program on using comedic poetry to discuss controversy. So you don't think funny poetry is poetry, huh? Is that it? You don't think funny poetry is poetry? Wow, that's a real cause to step against. Really saving lives with that one, huh? Emaciated, premature babies living inside tiny iron lungs lift their frail arms to you. Dying nuns with cracked lips talk last benedictions in your name. And somewhere up in heaven, your grandmother is smiling down and shaking her head with pride, saying, "Thank you, Jesus, that my baby was the one to finally tell the world that funny poetry isn't poetry." Knock, knock. Who's there? Boo? Boo-hoo. Crying isn't going to work anymore. What kind of simple-minded, uncultured jerk do you have to be to claim you know so much about poetry that you alone can dictate what is or isn't poetry? And yet be so uneducated as to not recognize the literary history of humorous poetry. Remember Shakespeare, that old geezer? Remember him? Genius. Remember how he wrote that? If snow be white, what then his lover's breast be done? Or that if hairs be wires, black wires grow out of her head. Or what about, and in some perfumes there is more delight than that from which the breath my mistress reeks. You know what that is? That is Shakespeare being purposefully insensitive and obtuse in order to gain the audience reaction that he wanted. And what was that reaction? Laughter. Knock, knock. Who's there? Total world annihilation. Total world annihilation who? That's funny. You can hear me coming, but the president can't. And you say that my stage is a comedy club, and you say that funny poets aren't poets, and you say that my examples, that they're unfair, that I choose real poets who just happen to write funny things, not comedians fretting like they know how to write poetry. But if you're going to use their words against them, I'm going to use your words against you. Because a person who denies another person that they can write poetry is ignorant. And a person who tries to humiliate somebody else simply because they're trying to express themselves is a tyrant. And a person who tries to silence someone's poetry simply because it makes people laugh is a freaking Nazi. Knock, knock. Who's there? God. God who? Oh, that's right. I don't exist in your modern world. Because seriously, how hard is it to make someone sad? Your mother is ugly. Is that a poem? But to make someone laugh is a gift. To take someone's bad day and and crack it over the base of a microphone stand and pull from that empty shell a smile, a giggle, a laugh. Is a talent whose respect shall never be denied. So if you want to take someone on, take me on, little man, serious, because I can handle you. I will make you laugh so hard, your ego will burst. I will school you in ha-ha so serious, your funny bone will dissolve into your urine. So you listen to me. Don't you ever tell people what they are and are not writing, let alone in my house, against my friends. Because not only will I take you on, but guess what? I have an army. A very funny army that does not just consist of funny poets, because my borders are endless. Funny poets and serious poets, political poets and hip-hop poets, experimental poets and old schoolers. Knock knock, who's there? The U.S. military? The U.S. military who? Hey, be happy I knocked and didn't just friggin' bomb you. I embrace the inherent poetry of every person I see, whether they call themselves a poet or not. So let it be known, once and for all, that Richard Pryor is a poet, and Lenny Bruce is a poet, and Charles Schulz, creator of Peanuts, is a haiku genius. And T.S. Eliot is a poet, and so is Ogden Nash, and Jonas Hogg, and Shafi C. Schultz, and Bosia. They are all poets. And every person in this room is a poet, and every person hearing these words is a poet, and every person who has the breath, and the mind, and the heart, and the guts to say that they are poets are all poets, because who am I to say that they aren't? And if you call yourself a poet and spout hateful crap like funny poetry isn't poetry one more time, I'm going to flip the script and get serious on you here. And you don't want my grim prose all up in your face, so why don't you just step back? Actually, listen for a moment. Open your mind, open your heart, open your mouth, and just